Hello everyone, welcome to the 8th Winter 2015-2016 update from GazLoveBiz.com. We're going to get various things together for this 8th update, such as we've been looking at throughout the whole of the autumn. Taking a look at solar activity, what's going on with the ocean, particularly in terms of El Nino. We'll also have a look at what's happened in Russia in terms of the snow cover over the past week. And we'll have a look at some analogues as well. So it's going to be quite a long video, as you know. On a Sunday morning, it's a fairly long one. So you get a comfy chair and a cup of tea, maybe a couple of biscuits, because we'll be around for a little while. But I'm going to try and keep it under half an hour if I possibly can. This is all building up to the GazLoveBiz.com Winter 2015-2016 forecast, which will be released on Tuesday, the 1st of December. So we've done 7 updates. All of these updates are building up a picture, building up a storyline, and eventually it's all going to go into that winter update that we're going to release on the 1st of December. It's only a couple more winter updates to go, can you believe, after this? We're going to do 10, so there'll be one more next week, and then another one, the final one, week after that. The week after that, the 29th of November, I think it is, will be the season model roundup, the last one of those, getting all the seasonal models together. And then we'll do the actual forecast on the 1st of December. So we're getting very, very close now. We're getting towards the crunch. And it's probably time for me to start knuckling down and trying to come up with some ideas. I'm still quite uncertain about this winter. I think it's going to be quite an unusual pattern that we have going on because of the El Nino. We'll discuss that in a moment. But very uncertain quite what that means for us. Anyway, before I get on with all of that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages at GazLoveBiz. Have a browse through the widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you're helping to pay for the website. There's video ads on most of the pages. They open out within the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. It's all helping to pay for GazLoveBiz.com. The Christmas shop is open, so if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click the button underneath this video on the home page that says Christmas shop. It'll take you to our Christmas shop, and then from there you can either use the search widget to search for whatever item you want to buy. Alternatively, you can just click through the Amazon banners and go to amazon.co.uk. Do Christmas shopping at Amazon as usual. Excuse me. But because you're going from GazLoveBiz to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on what you are buying. So thanks so much for doing that, and enjoy your Christmas shopping if that's what you want to do. Got a little bit of tingling in my throat today, so I've got some water. I may have to stop and have a little bit of a sip. I hope you bear with me if I have to do that. Right, I've gone on for long enough, and let's get on with the video. Going to start with El Nino. We've had some developments with that over the past week. We've got the next number in this box. So this chart is from NOAA, and it's the cold and warm episodes by season graph. So the red numbers in the boxes here essentially are El Niños events, and the blue numbers in the boxes are cold events, they're La Niña events. So if we go down to the current year, we've had a new red number put into the box. Can you believe? This one is for the tri-monthly period August, September and October. Now, as you know, to get an El Nino designated, you have to have 5 tri-monthly periods with the temperature anomaly going over 0.5 degrees or more above average. So quite clearly, we did that a couple of tri-monthly periods ago. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them now, and the latest one is this one. For August, September, October. That tri-monthly period comes out with an anomaly of 1.7 degrees above average. A very big anomaly. That's getting towards sort of Super Nino type territory. When was the last time we had an anomaly as big as that for this time of the year? I have to scroll back through the grid, and there we go. We get to 1997. This tri-monthly period, August, September, October, in 1997, came out with a temperature anomaly of 2 degrees above average. So what's been going on over the past few tri-monthly periods has continued for this latest one. in that we've generally been coming out a little bit under where we was in 1997. 1997. So, for example, this one comes out at 1.4, this one comes out at 1.7, I say the latest one comes out at 2.0 in 1997. Compare that to 2015, and it's 1.2, 1.5, and now 1.7. So we're very close to the 1997-1998 event, which was the strongest recorded El Nino on record. We're very close to it, but just ever so slightly under it, and that's been a trend for at least the last 3 tri-month periods. If it continues through the rest of this El Nino event, it may not do, it may overtake it at some point, but if it continues like this through the rest of this El Nino event, we probably won't beat 97-98. That will probably remain the strongest recorded El Nino. But it's going to be very close, and whatever happens, this is a big event. It's a big El Nino that we've got to contend with this year. So this was the chart from NOAA in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe when we did the last update last week, the 7th update. Obviously, the signature for El Nino, you know what it is now. It's this big, vibrant red area through the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. It's a warm event. It's the Earth's natural warming and cooling excuse me, cycle taking place. So that huge red anomaly is the signature for El Nino. Let's go and have a look and see what's happened over the past week. And, well, going back to last week and then going through to the latest chart on the which was generated on the 5th of November, you can see that probably it's warmed a little bit more. It probably actually increased the temperature, particularly through this central zone of the equatorial Pacific just here. This is a huge event. I probably haven't emphasised enough just how big an event this is, but this really is a monster, this El Nino event, and it's going to be the background signal, and whatever else is going on, we have got to very seriously factor in what the implications of this El Nino could be, because it may be that we have everything else going for us in terms of getting a cold winter, but it could just be that this El Nino is going to force things and lock us into a very mild pattern as we had in 97, 98. I really have got to start thinking very seriously about what this monster event is. I know a lot of people are a little bit dubious about the effects of El Nino for us, not really sure about it. They do change from event to event, but when these events, both El Nino and in terms of the cold event, La Nina, when they get to this sort of strength, it's usually is a bad signal for a cold winter, I have to say that. So we're going to have to really knuckle down on that over the next week or two and think very seriously about it. In terms of the cold blob in the Atlantic Ocean, that is more or less static actually. So this situation again on the 29th with this cold anomaly in central northern parts of the Atlantic. Going forward to the latest chart, very little change has taken place, so it's virtually identical in terms of where that cold anomaly is, and it's not really shrunk and it's not really grew, it just is very static. Now last week there was a bit of a suggestion that we might be seeing the beginnings of a Modoki El Nino, a central-based El Nino. What a Modoki El Nino is that you get the central part of the equatorial Pacific, that area just there, warmer than the eastern equatorial Pacific just here. So when it's warmer in the middle and cooler over towards Peru, this is Peru just here of course, when you get that signature, you've got a Modoki or a Modaiki, a central-based El Nino event. That can be a signal for a colder winter for America, sometimes, not always, sometimes for us. We had a Modoki El Nino in 0203. It was a cold winter in America. It wasn't a particularly cold winter for us, but we also had it in 0910, which was a cold winter for America and a cold winter for us. So it is one of the things that we look at, see if we get a central base El Nino. And we sort of had that suggestion last week. So this is from tropicaltidbits.com. This is the temperature anomaly by region. So this is region 3.4, which is the central part of the Equatorial Pacific. We talk about these parts of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean in terms of region. So 3.4 region is sort of the central area. You want that to be warmer than the eastern part of the Pacific, which is region 1.2. So we can go back to August with this chart, and you see that we've been getting a gradual increase in the temperature through the central part of the Equatorial Pacific through the past 3 months. So as I say, we're in the middle of August just there, and we're in November just here. And you see that overall the trend has been to lift the temperatures up through the central part of the Equatorial Pacific over the past 3 months, and of course we're at a very high level now. This is the actual temperature anomaly on the side, and we're getting close to 3 degrees above average through that central part of the Equatorial Pacific, which really is a monster El Nino event. Now, last week this chart was showing a drop in temperatures through region 1.2, and you can see that just here. So we have region 1.2 cooler than region 3.4 last week, and sort of I did suggest this might be the beginnings of the El Nino becoming central base, but I'm sure you can see what's happened over the past week. We've had this big increase in the temperature again through the eastern part of the Equatorial Pacific. So now the very latest is that we're just here, which again is over 2, so it's around 2.5 degrees above average in terms of the temperature anomaly through region 1.2, which is roughly on a par with region 3.4. So we've bounced back in the eastern Equatorial Pacific, and obviously we can see that this wasn't in fact the start of a Modoki central based El Nino. What we've got in fact is just a general warm El Nino event from the east into the middle part of the Pacific Ocean. It's looking pretty uniform. So no Modoki or Modoki central based El Nino at this point. We will continue to monitor it, but if this El Nino event continues to look like this and the warmth is uniform from here over to here, if we continue to get that, then it is probably, given the strength of this El Nino, it's probably going to be a signal for a milder winter. But we're going to continue to monitor it anyway up to the start of December. Right, going on to something completely different. This is solar activity. Well, this is going to be solar activity, this part of the video. This is a solar disk on our side of the disk today from a website, solarham.net. These are the sunspots that we've got, and we've got very low activity. The official designation of sunspot activity today is very low. We've got a couple of sunspots there, one just there, one just there. Not a great deal going on though, so solar activity today is officially designated as very low at the website solarham.net. You find it Solarham on the links page. This is the running graph of solar activity from last winter to present from our good friend James Ackland. He's been supplying us with these charts on a weekly basis. This is bang up to date. So you can see where we are on this graph, which is just here in terms of sunspot activity. So we're lower than we was last winter. This takes us back to last winter just here. We are gradually trending down, but it is a gradual process. And we're a little bit above where we was at the start of October in terms of sunspots, but we're below where we was at the end of September. There was a big crash at the end of September into the start of October. So we're in this zone just here. Got relatively weak solar activity, but we're not into solar minimum by any means. We're just under where we was last winter when we was very close to coming out of the solar maximum of solar cycle 24. But the trend downwards continues. As long as we keep solar activity in this sort of zone, I don't really think that solar activity will be a tremendous problem this winter. But if we go up to this sort of area just here again, then we probably have to start thinking about the jet stream being enhanced a bit by sunspot activity, but no evidence of that at this stage. This is quite interesting. This is the comparison graph of solar cycle 12 and solar cycle 24. So I've had this solar cycle back in the 1800s from 1878, I think it was, to 1890, solar cycle 12, running very close to the the current solar cycle 24. And you can see this by, well, the green lines just here are telling us what happened with solar cycle 12. The orange line just here, or the yellow line, I should say, just here, is the current solar cycle 24. And you see how both solar cycles started off very weak, took a long time to get going, sort of peaked in this zone, but very much up and down with the activity in both solar cycles, so you're getting peaks and troughs even within what is the solar maximum, which is in this sort of zone, and now trending downwards again. Now, what happened in solar cycle 12 is that we got one final ramp up in activity, which occurred just here before finally we dropped down into solar minimum. So we get one more big push up in activity, and it happens to coincide with winter as we did in solar cycle 12, then that would negate the chance of blocking this winter. But I think you can see that quite clearly. We are continuing to trend very close with these two solar cycles, and you see this from the trend line. The trend line is the thick green line just here and the thick red line just here, and you can see very clearly how they're virtually linear in terms of going up, how they sort of reach solar maximum very much in a linear fashion. And now, I'll get rid of those lines, now how both the thick green line and how the thick red line are trending down quite steadily into solar minimum. So I think there is still a very good correlation there between the two solar cycles. So what happened in terms of the winters of the solar cycle 12 and 24 is that would be running very parallel with these winters through both the solar cycles. I won't go through because you've seen this quite a bit, but just to recap that this is the winter of solar cycle 12 that corresponds with the winter of solar cycle 24 that we're approaching. The winter of 2015-2016 will be corresponding with winter of 1885-1886 from solar cycle 12. And quite clearly you can see that was a colder than average winter. Again, I'll get rid of that. It was a significantly colder than average winter that occurred in 1885-1886. So if we continue to run very close, most of these winters have been doing so, as you can see. Just this one winter here that deviates, which is 1882, 1883, and 2012, 2013. Excuse me, they do deviate, but most of the other winters have been running very closely. The last winter actually had a bit of a deviation, but it was within half a degree of average on both above average and below average in terms of both of those winters. So really you can say that both winters came out about average, just one was a little bit above, one was a little bit below. But anyway, if we continue to trend with solar cycle 12 in terms of these winters, the coming winter should be colder than average. Now, we've discussed this a lot over the last few updates, but what happened in solar cycle 12, this winter of solar cycle 12, I should say, 1885 1886, is that we had an El Niño event, but it was a weak event. This event that we've got going on through the coming winter, we're going to have it through the coming winter, going to be a much stronger event than one that occurred in 1885, 1886. So that could just pull these two winters apart. Otherwise, they probably would be very close. But that El Niño event that we've got going on now could be the driving factor in really prizing these two winters apart from one another. We will continue to monitor. Hurricane activity next, have been no developments for that, so I'll just rattle through. We've had 10 total storms, 3 hurricanes, 2 major category 3 or above hurricanes. Very quiet hurricane season, really, the third one in succession, and nothing much has happened there over the past week. We're into the QBO, into the westerly QBO, I should say, which is indicated by this thick grey area just here. That's telling us we're in a westerly QBO. Excuse me. When you're in a westerly QBO, essentially you're enhancing the zonal westerlies. When you enhance the zonal westerlies, it sort of goes against the idea of blocking. So a westerly QBO, such as we're in for this winter, probably is a signal for a milder than average winter. But it's not quite as simple as that. There are many years through these westerly and easterly QBO winters that sort of deviate from that idea. And actually, I'm going to have a look at the QBO next week with some analogues from our good friend Stuart Markham. So we'll be looking at that next week, the QBO, and years in terms of El Niño that go with a westerly QBO. So I'll have much more on that for you next week. Siberian snow cover next. This was a situation last week when we did the 7th update. Virtually the whole of Russia was covered, just the far west around the European border still free of snow, but most of Russia was covered, and Northern Scandinavia. We had a good snow cover season actually through the course of October. And I said that probably helps us a little bit in terms of getting getting an increased chance anyway of some blocking. But if you have a look at the latest chart, this is from Friday, Friday the 6th of November, you can see that actually the snow cover receded through the first week of November. So again, this is a situation on 30th of October. This is a situation on the 6th of November. And quite clearly, snow cover has receded back a little bit. And also from Scandinavia. There's a situation across northern Scandinavia, 30th of October. That's the latest situation. And we have lost snow across both Scandinavia and Western Russia. Now, I'm not sure this is particularly impactful now. It's really October that's the important month for bedding in that rapid increase of snow cover. So we did do that quite well through the course of October. Now we've gone into November. I'm not sure this is less impactful, but obviously this is going the wrong way. If you want to take this snow cover into Europe, eventually get it to British Isles, this is going the wrong way, really. You don't want to be seeing it receding. You want to be seeing it sort of progressing into Europe. Right, just going to have a look at some analogues before I go. So last week we was discussing anticyclonic Octobers, and Stuart gave us some very interesting analogues. By the way, Stuart Markham owns the website chorleyweather.com, and you can find the link to Chorley Weather on the links page. It's fantastic weather website. Do check that out. Next week I'm going to actually have Chorley Weather up in the video, so you'll be able to see the website for yourself. But anyway, Stuart gave us these analogues last week, looking at anticyclonic Octobers, and then doing reanalysis to see what the winters were like that followed anticyclonic Octobers, because October 2015 is going to be one of the most anticyclonic on record. Actually, it's going to be about the third most anticyclonic October on record. Anticyclonic, by the way, means high pressure dominated. So this is the reanalysis chart for all of the winters that were preceded by anticyclonic Octobers. Very interesting chart indeed, with a lot of northern blocking, a negative NAO as well. Better change the colour there, something a little bit brighter. So a negative NAO going underneath the blocking. So generally, an anticyclonic, a dry October, is a signal for northern blocking in the winter, and potentially a colder pattern as well. Of course, there will always be years that deviate from that idea. So this is just a general analogue of all the years combined. There are a lot of them. You see that on the side, all the years that Stuart picked out had anticyclonic October. So you'll always get deviations, but that is the mean sort of pattern of all of the years in terms of the winters that followed an anticyclonic October. So this is the reanalysis chart for October 2015. It's a very unique pattern through October 2015. We had a lot of low pressure around Greenland. We had low pressure around Spain, and going into the Mediterranean, we had this large ridge of high pressure across many northern and western parts of Europe. Quite a unique setup there for that October. And Stuart's been looking at some years that were close to October 2015 in terms of the pattern, again using reanalysis. So I find all this reanalysis stuff really, really fascinating, but I'm not that good at it, so that's why I asked Stuart to do the work for me. So he's come up with 3 years that are fairly closely matched to October 2015 in terms of the anticyclonic October. Those years are 1914, 1952, and I think 1954. We'll have another look. It's 1951 actually. So it's October 1914, October 1951, and October 1953. They're the three closest matches that Stuart could find. So this is October 1914. All of the high pressure up here, low pressure to the south, low pressure around Green. That's a fairly close match to what's happened in October 2015, the last month. This is October 1951, again very closely matched to this October. Low pressure around Greenland, low pressure to the south, and this big ridge here across northern Europe, and particularly centred over Scandinavia. And then finally, 1953, October 1953, looks like this. Again, very, very close to what's happened in October 2015, with all of the low pressure up around Greenland, low pressure running through Spain and the Med, and then this big ridge up here. So those are the three closest matches Stuart could find to the current situation that happened in October 2015. Now, looking at the winters that followed these Octobers, so this is the winter of 1914-1915 reanalysed, and this was a tremendously wet winter. The British Army, you can't really make us out, but we had a huge trough of low pressure churning away across the country. It's an exceptionally wet winter. Up to a couple of years ago, January 1915 was actually the wettest January on record, but we beat it in 2014. January 2014 was wetter than 1915. But before that, for a very, very long time, January 1915 held the record as the wettest January on record. It was also fairly cold as well, so I have to consider that. It was a fairly chilly month. There was some snow at times. It was like a colder version of 2013-2014, if you like, but it was certainly exceptionally wet winter, particularly January and February 1915. This is how the winter of 51-52 panned out. And this one's a little bit more interesting. The trough is in over Scandinavia, indeed down through central parts of Europe, and the Azores High is displaced further north in the Atlantic. So the jet was going a bit like that. It was quite a cold winter, actually. There was some fairly significant cold snaps, although there were also mild injuries. So it's one of those winters where the cold was a bit on and off, really. But certainly some interesting weather came through in that winter of 51-52. And then finally, we have 53-54, which is the most interesting of the three winters from a cold perspective, because we had a very negative North Atlantic oscillation. Didn't have a huge amount of blocking, interestingly. It wasn't really a great deal of blocking over top of the pole, but we did have this very persistent area of high pressure up over Scandinavia, and that gave us some really cold weather, especially January and February. Actually, December 1953 was very mild, but as we got through to January and February, it really did turn cold, and the coldest part of the winter was late January and early February 1954, when there was some severely cold weather actually into the start of February 1954. So that one is the most interesting of the three in terms of a cold perspective. If you didn't like the winter a couple of years ago, 2013-2014, you won't be very impressed to see 1915 cropping up, because that was very close to the winter we had a couple of years ago in terms of the deluge that took place, although I say it was a little bit colder, so it was some snow at times, whereas 2013-14 actually was virtually snowless all the way through. So that's what the analogues look like in terms of matching the pattern that we had in October to those 3 years, and then looking at those the winters that followed those 3 years. And of course, we've already looked at the general idea that an anticyclonic October tends to be a signal for a cold winter, or certainly a block winter with northern blocking. But of course, it's not that simple. It's not as straightforward as that. You'll always get years that deviate. So that's it for the 8th winter update. I hope you found it interesting. Next week, as I said, we're going to be looking in depth at the QBO and trying to match it up with a couple of El Niños, because I think what we're going to do is think about El Niño and years that were westerly QBO. So I've got Stuart going to work on that as we speak, and we will see what he comes up with next week. But that's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Later on today, there's going to be a brand new Christmas update. So that's the 4th one. Come back to for that later on the Christmas updates page. That's all for now. I'll have to give a throat a little bit of a water. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.